The Galactic Summit was the most important event in the universe. Held once every 100 years, it took place in the Grand Hall of the Imperial Star Fortress, a massive space station floating at the center of the Galactic Empire. The most powerful alien species in the galaxy gathered here to discuss politics, trade, and war. They came in all shapes and sizes: tall reptilian warlords, insectoid scholars, multi-eyed diplomats, and creatures made of pure energy. At the center of the hall sat the Grand Emperor of the Galactic Dominion, a towering figure with golden skin and piercing red eyes. His voice echoed through the chamber. Today, we decide the fate of those who wish to join our empire. Let us begin with the most recent request. A hologram flickered to life, showing a small blue planet, Earth. The aliens in the room muttered amongst themselves. Earth was an unknown world on the edge of the galaxy, home to a species called humans. They had only recently developed faster-than-light travel, and yet they had dared to request a seat in the Galactic Council. The Emperor scoffed. Humans are weak. They lack history, power, and intelligence. What could they possibly offer the Empire? He waved a hand dismissively. Their request is denied. Just then, the doors to the chamber slammed open. A single human walked in. The entire hall went silent. The figure was a man dressed in a sleek black suit, a small Earth emblem pinned to his chest. He walked forward without hesitation, his boots clicking against the polished floor. The guards at the entrance hesitated, unsure whether to stop him. The alien delegates exchanged shocked glances. No one interrupted the Galactic Summit uninvited. The human stopped in the middle of the chamber, standing before the Emperor's golden throne. He looked up, smiling confidently. "Greetings," he said, his voice calm but firm. "I am Ambassador Ryan Carter of Earth, and I believe there's been a mistake." The Emperor narrowed his eyes. "A mistake?" "Yes," Carter said, placing a small black device on the table before him. "You've judged humanity without even speaking to us. That's not how a fair empire works, is it?" The Emperor leaned forward, his expression unreadable. "And what do you plan to do about it, human?" Carter pressed a button on the device. A holographic screen flickered to life, displaying an endless stream of data: scientific breakthroughs, engineering marvels, medical discoveries, and military tactics. Images of human history flashed before the audience: the rise and fall of empires, the invention of flight, the moon landing, the discovery of artificial intelligence. The alien delegates stared in shock. Humanity had achieved all of this in just a few thousand years, an impossibly short time compared to the other species in the room. Carter folded his arms. "We may not be the strongest, the oldest, or the most advanced species in this galaxy, but we are fast. We learn, we adapt, we survive." His eyes locked onto the Emperor's. "And we never back down." A murmur spread through the hall. The Emperor remained silent, his fingers tapping against the armrest of his throne. The tension in the air was thick. Finally, the Emperor chuckled. It was a low, rumbling sound that sent chills through the room. "Interesting," he said. "Very interesting." He leaned forward. "Then prove it." Carter smiled. "Gladly." The room erupted into chaos. The Emperor's golden eyes gleamed with amusement as he studied the lone human standing before him. The Galactic Summit had never been interrupted like this before. The alien delegates whispered among themselves, their voices filled with curiosity and doubt. Carter remained calm, his hands resting at his sides. He had expected resistance, but that was fine. Humanity had never been welcomed easily anywhere. Why should the stars be any different? The Emperor leaned forward. "You claim that humans are worthy of standing among us," he said. "But words mean nothing in this hall." Carter smirked. "Then let's use actions instead." A ripple of surprise moved through the crowd. Few species dared to challenge the Empire so directly. The Emperor's smile widened. "Very well," he said. "You will face the trial of superiority, the same test all new species must pass." Carter raised an eyebrow. "And if I win?" The Emperor's expression darkened. "Then humanity earns its place in this galaxy." Carter nodded. "Sounds fair." The Emperor turned toward his council. "Prepare the first trial, the test of strength." The chamber shifted as the floor beneath them separated, revealing a descending platform. Carter and the delegates were lowered into a massive arena, a steel battlefield surrounded by towering walls, with alien banners hanging from the ceiling. Thousands of alien spectators filled the stands, eager to see the human fail. A booming voice echoed through the arena. "The challenge uninvited." The crowd roared as a massive figure stepped forward. The Challenger was an 8-foot-tall warlord from the Galactic Dominion, a species known for their brutal warriors. His thick, armored hide was covered in scars, and his forearms flexed as he cracked his knuckles. Carter tilted his head. 4 arms? That's hardly fair. The Galactic warrior grinned, revealing rows of sharp teeth. I agree, he growled. You should have brought more humans. The arena shook with laughter. The human was dead meat. A deep gong sounded. The fight had begun. The Galactic warrior lunged, moving fast despite his massive size. He swung a heavy fist at Carter, aiming to crush him in one blow. But Carter wasn't there. The warlord's punch hit nothing but air as Carter sidestepped at the last second. The crowd gasped. Humans were supposed to be slow, weak creatures. How had he dodged so easily? Carter rolled his shoulders. Too slow. The warlord roared, attacking again. This time, he swung all 4 fists in a flurry of brutal strikes. Any normal fighter would have been destroyed instantly. But Carter weaved between the blows, his movements precise and effortless. It was like watching a dancer in perfect rhythm. Every attack missed by mere inches. The warlord snarled in frustration. Stand still and fight. Carter grinned. All right. In one swift motion, he dodged low and struck. His fist landed in the exact center of the Galactic's ribcage. A sharp crack echoed through the arena. The warlord's eyes widened. He staggered backward, coughing. The crowd fell silent. Carter adjusted his suit. I may not have 4 arms, he said, but I know how to use the 2 I've got. The warlord fell to his knees, defeated. The arena was deathly quiet for a long moment. Then, from the Emperor's balcony, slow clapping began. The Emperor stood, his expression unreadable. Impressive, he said, but strength alone is not enough. Let us see if humanity is as intelligent as it is fast. Carter smiled. I was hoping you'd say that. The next trial was about to begin. The defeated Galactic warlord was carried off the arena floor, groaning in pain. The audience, once filled with laughter and jeers, now murmured with uncertainty. Humanity had just proven itself stronger than expected. The Emperor, however, remained unimpressed. He raised a hand, silencing the crowd. Strength means little without intelligence, he declared. A true member of the Galactic Council must not only fight but think. Carter smirked. Good, I was getting bored of punching things. The arena floor shifted again. Panels opened beneath Carter's feet, revealing a rising platform. As he stepped onto it, the walls around him transformed into towering screens displaying a vast battlefield, a digital war simulation, one used by the Empire to train its greatest generals. The Emperor gestured toward the shimmering holographic battlefield. This is the trial of strategy. The task is simple. Command a fleet and defeat your opponent. Carter glanced at the opposing side of the arena. A tall, thin alien with a crown-like exoskeleton stood there, Grand Admiral Psylocke, one of the Empire's most brilliant military minds. He had led countless campaigns, defeating species far more advanced than humanity. Psylocke sneered. I have crushed empires that have existed for millennia, he said, his voice dripping with arrogance. You human are nothing but an insect. Carter simply rolled his shoulders. Funny. That's what the last guy said before I knocked him out. Psylocke ignored the comment. He turned to his console and began entering commands at lightning speed. His fleet, represented by glowy ships on the holographic battlefield, moved with deadly precision. Carter studied his own fleet. The system had given him a standard human battle group, small, underpowered, and vastly outnumbered. Meanwhile, Psylocke commanded a force twice the size, filled with advanced warships. The countdown began. 3, 2, 1. The battle started. Psylocke immediately launched an overwhelming assault, his warships swarming like a mechanical storm. He had played this game 1,000 times. He knew how it ended. Carter, however, simply leaned back and smiled. He tapped a few keys. Instead of engaging, his ships began retreating. Psylocke scoffed. Coward. The crowd murmured. Was the human running away? But then something strange happened. Carter's ships didn't scatter randomly. Instead, they moved in a precise formation, narrowing into a thin, straight line. Psylocke frowned. What is this? Carter didn't answer. He just watched. Psylocke ordered his fleet to pursue. The Empire's warships chased the humans, closing in. Any moment now, they would wipe them out. Then Carter struck. With a single command, his ship suddenly turned around and opened fire at full power. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. A feint? The human fleet had drawn the enemy into a kill zone. Thylock's ships were packed too tightly, their formations broken. Their advantage in numbers was useless. They were trapped in a bottleneck with no room to maneuver. The human fleet fired a devastating volley. Explosions filled the holographic battlefield. Thylock cursed, frantically trying to reorganize his forces, but it was too late. One by one, his warships fell, consumed by brilliant flashes of fire and debris. The battle lasted less than 5 minutes. Carter stood with his arms crossed. Checkmate. Thylock's final warship exploded. The simulation flickered, signaling victory for humanity. The arena was silent. Then, a wave of stunned murmurs filled the chamber. Thylock trembled with rage. "No, this is impossible. You cheated." Carter chuckled. "No, Admiral. I just used a little thing we humans call strategy." The Emperor studied him carefully, his expression unreadable. Finally, he gave a slow nod. "You are clever, human," the Emperor admitted. "But battles are not won by tactics alone. A true species must endure the worst the galaxy has to offer." He raised his hand. "Let us see if humanity can survive." Carter exhaled, cracking his knuckles. "Bring it on." The next trial was about to begin. The holographic battlefield flickered away, leaving only silence in the grand arena. The galactic delegates sat in stunned disbelief. Humanity had just outwitted one of the Empire's greatest strategists. But the Emperor was not finished testing this strange new species. He rose from his throne, his golden robes flowing as he lifted a hand. "Strength and intelligence mean nothing without endurance," he declared. "A weak mind breaks under pressure. A fragile body crumbles under pain. Now we shall see what humans are made of." The floor beneath Carter trembled as a new challenge emerged. Massive steel doors groaned open, revealing a chamber filled with death. Glistering flames erupted from the walls. Giant, jagged pillars of ice jutted from the floor. The gravity inside fluctuated wildly, shifting between unbearable pressure and weightlessness. Razor-sharp winds howled through the chamber, carrying toxic mist. This was the gauntlet of survival, a brutal test that no species had ever completed. Carter raised an eyebrow. "Ha, looks cozy." The Emperor smirked. "Let us see if you are still so confident after 5 minutes inside." Without hesitation, Carter stepped forward. The doors slammed shut behind him. The moment he entered, the temperature plunged to sub-zero levels. Frost formed instantly on his skin. His breath turned to mist. Then, fire. Blazing heat roared from above, turning the chamber into an inferno. Ice melted into steaming puddles before instantly refreezing. The drastic temperature shifts would have shattered the bodies of most species. Carter gritted his teeth. His skin burned, then froze, then burned again. Every nerve screamed in agony, but he clenched his fists and kept moving. The walls shook as the gravity intensified. Carter's body was slammed downward, his muscles straining against the force. His bones felt like they would crack. Then suddenly, zero gravity. He floated weightlessly as jagged ice spikes shot past him, barely missing his head. The alien audience watched in fascination. Some species in the Empire had survived one of these conditions before, but all of them at once. Impossible. And yet, the human endured. Carter pushed off a wall, dodging another burst of fire. His breath was ragged, his body trembling, but he laughed. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "Why do you laugh, human?" Carter steadied himself, grinning despite the pain. "Because this is just Tuesday on Earth." The crowd exchanged bewildered looks. Was this a joke? Carter took a deep breath and powered forward, moving through the chamber with sheer willpower. His species had survived ice ages, plagues, and wars. They had conquered mountains, crossed deserts, and walked on the moon. Compare that this was nothing. The countdown reached 0. The chamber's doors slid open. Carter staggered out, steam rising from his body. He was bruised, bleeding, and exhausted, but he was still standing. The arena was silent. Then cheers. Not just from the human supporters, but from alien delegates who had once mocked him. Even the Emperor seemed impressed, his gaze unreadable. Carter wiped blood from his lip. "That all you got?" The Emperor smiled. "Perhaps I underestimated humanity." Then his expression darkened. "But raw endurance is not enough. There is one final test. A test of the mind." Carter exhaled, rolling his shoulders. "All right, let's see how deep this rabbit hole goes." The final trial was about to begin. The Emperor's golden eyes studied Carter with renewed interest. The human had survived fire and ice, gravity shifts, and razor-sharp winds, trials designed to break even the strongest of species, and yet he still stood. But physical endurance was only one part of true strength. Now came the trial that had broken even the most powerful warlords in the galaxy. The Emperor raised a hand. Strength and endurance can be tested with fire and steel, but the mind is more fragile. It can be twisted, shattered, and turned against itself. The arena shifted once more. The towering walls melted away, replaced by a strange, featureless void. The air grew heavy, thick with an unseen pressure. A low hum filled the chamber, a sound that didn't just reach the ears but seemed to crawl inside the skull. Carter frowned. His vision blurred for a second before sharpening again. "All right, what's this?" A tall, hooded figure stepped forward. Its body shimmered like liquid metal, and its face was hidden beneath a smooth, featureless mask. "This," the Emperor said, "is the Mind Leech." A murmur of fear ran through the watching delegates. Carter raised an eyebrow. Dramatic name. "The Leech," the Emperor continued, "is not a being of flesh. It is a creature of pure thought. It does not fight with weapons. It invades your mind. It finds your greatest fears, your deepest regrets, and it breaks you from the inside." The hooded figure lifted a hand. A cold whisper slithered through the chamber. The air grew impossibly still. Carter barely had time to react before his mind was pulled. Inside Carter's head, he was no longer in the arena. He stood on Earth, but it wasn't his Earth. The sky was black. Cities burned in the distance. Ships, human ships, lay in ruins, their twisted metal skeletons jutting from the ground like broken bones. The air smelled of smoke and death. A voice echoed. It was his own voice. "You failed." Carter turned. A second version of himself stood there, dressed in the same black suit, but his face was tired, hollow. His eyes were empty. "No matter how hard you fight," the copy said, stepping closer, "no matter how much you endure, in the end, humanity loses." Carter clenched his fists. "Nice trick. Mind illusions. I get it." The figure smirked. "Do you? Because this isn't a trick, Ryan. This is the truth." Carter's head ached. The whispers grew louder, curling around his thoughts like creeping vines. Every doubt he had ever buried rose to the surface. The missions that went wrong. The friends he had lost. The knowledge that humanity, for all its strength and fire, was just a speck in the vast, merciless universe. A sudden weight pressed against his mind. Give in. Give up. Let it end. Carter laughed. The illusions flickered. The whispers paused. Carter took a step forward, grinning. "You're good. Really you are. But there's just one little problem." His eyes locked onto the false version of himself. "You think this is the worst I've ever felt?" The illusion faltered. Carter pressed forward. "I come from a species that thrives on struggle. We've been through wars, disasters, betrayals, you name it. Every time we were knocked down, we got back up." The burning city around him trembled. "You think fear will break me?" Carter's voice rose. "We live with fear every day. We laugh in the face of it. We make horror movies about it." The second version of himself took a step back. Carter grinned wider. "And let me tell you a secret." He'd eat in. "The scariest thing in the universe," he clenched his fist, "is a human who refuses to quit." He punched the illusion. The entire nightmare shattered. Back in the arena, Carter gasped, snapping back to reality. His suit was drenched in sweat. His breathing was ragged. The Mind Leech lay motionless, its shimmering form flickering violently. It reeled back, its presence fading before vanishing entirely. Silence. Then whispers, but this time they came from the watching delegates. "No one has ever resisted the Leech." "The human." He fought it off. "This is impossible." Carter wiped his brow, turning toward the Emperor. "Nice little mind game, but next time bring a real challenge." The Emperor sat very still. For the first time since the trials began, there was something in his expression beyond amusement or arrogance. It was calculation. The human had survived everything. Strength, strategy, endurance, and now even psychological warfare. He leaned forward. "Humanity," he said slowly, "is unlike any species we have ever encountered." He exhaled. "But there is one final test." Carter smiled, shaking out his arms. "Figures. All right, what is it?" The Emperor's gaze darkened. "The test of loyalty." A new kind of tension filled the air, because this was the hardest test of all. The murmurs in the arena faded into silence. The Emperor's golden eyes remained locked on Carter, his expression unreadable. "You have proven your strength, your intelligence, and your resilience," the Emperor said, "but those are meaningless without loyalty." Carter crossed his arms. Loyalty to what? The Emperor gestured, and a section of the arena floor shifted. A transparent containment field flickered to life, revealing 3 figures. Carter's breath caught. Inside the force field were 3 humans. A woman with a captain's insignia on her uniform, Captain Riley Morgan. A scientist, Dr. Elijah Vance, with his lab coat torn and stained. And a young Marine, Private Harris, barely in his 20s, his face bruised but defiant. Carter's jaw clenched. What the hell is this? The Emperor leaned back. A simple choice. Another section of the floor shifted, revealing a shimmering red button on a pedestal. "Press the button," the Emperor said, "and your people will walk free. They will be returned to your ship unharmed." Carter narrowed his eyes. And a catch. The Emperor's voice was calm. "You will stay." The weight of those words sank into Carter like a stone. The Emperor continued, "You will serve the Empire, as a warrior, as a commander, as a tool for our conquest." He gestured toward the galactic delegates. "Your strength and cunning are impressive. With you at our side, we could reshake the stars. Humanity would be elevated beyond its fragile existence." Carter's fists clenched. "And if I refuse?" The Emperor's expression darkened. "Then they die." A mechanical hiss filled the air as energy cannons descended from the ceiling, aimed directly at the prisoners. Captain Morgan locked eyes with Carter. "Don't do it," she said firmly. Dr. Vance swallowed hard but nodded. "We knew the risks." Private Harris gritted his teeth. "Sir, don't let them own you." The watching alien delegates waited in tense silence. The test was cruel. It was unfair. But it was the ultimate measure of loyalty, personal sacrifice for the good of others. Carter inhaled slowly. His mind raced. If he surrendered, humanity would lose one of its best defenders. If he refused, 3 innocent people would die. There was no good option. Unless, a thought flickered in Carter's mind. A wild, insane idea. His lips curled into a grin. The Emperor frowned. "You find this amusing?" Carter cracked his knuckles. "You know, for a super-intelligent galactic empire, you guys really don't understand humans." The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "Explain." Carter exhaled. "You want me to kneel? To serve? To throw my own people under the bus just to save my skin?" He chuckled. "Yeah, that's not happening." And then, he lunged. Chaos erupts. Before anyone could react, Carter grabbed the pedestal and ripped it from the ground. Sparks flew as he hurled it toward the nearest energy cannon, shattering it in an explosion of fire and metal. Alarms blared. Carter was already moving. He sprinted toward the containment field, dodging a barrage of plasma blasts. Guards swarmed the arena, weapons drawn. But Carter had a plan. With a running leap, he grabbed onto the control panel of the containment field and smashed his fist through it. The force field flickered, then collapsed. Captain Morgan and Private Harris charged forward, tackling the nearest guards. Dr. Vance scrambled to a fallen blaster, fumbling to aim. Carter twisted, grabbing a guard by the wrist and flipping him over his shoulder. He snatched the guard's energy rifle, spinning it in his hands. The Emperor rose to his feet, furious. "Seize them." Carter grinned, aiming the rifle at the throne. "I don't think so." Before the Emperor could react, Carter fired. The shot wasn't meant to kill, but to destroy the throne's control panel. The energy shield surrounding the Emperor short-circuited in a shower of sparks. Carter turned to Morgan. "We need an exit." Morgan tapped her wrist communicator. "Titan 7, this is Captain Morgan. Emergency evac, lock onto my signal." A voice crackled through the comm. "Roger that. Brace for extraction." A deafening boom filled the arena as a massive explosion rocked the ceiling. The hull of the Imperial chamber ruptured, revealing a sleek, silver-human dropship descending through the smoke. Ropes dropped. Carter grabbed one. Time to go. Morgan hauled Dr. Vance up first. Harris followed, still firing his blaster at the stunned guards. Carter turned back to the Emperor. The alien ruler stood motionless, his golden robes swirling in the wind of the dropship's thrusters. His expression was unreadable. "This isn't over, human," the Emperor said, his voice low. Carter smirked. "Oh, I know." With that, he grabbed the rope and launched himself into the air. The dropship engines roared as it lifted into the sky, escaping the Galactic Empire. As the ship shot into the void of space, Carter collapsed into a seat, breathing heavily. Morgan turned to him. "You really don't know how to follow orders, do you?" Carter grinned. "Not my style." Harris laughed. Dr. Vance shook his head in disbelief. And outside the ship's window, the Galactic Empire loomed in the distance. This wasn't the end. This was just the beginning. The Titan VII roared through the void, its engines pushing it toward the edge of Imperial space. Inside, Carter sat on a crate, rolling his aching shoulders. Across from him, Captain Morgan checked her weapons, while Dr. Vance ran a diagnostic on the ship's systems. Private Harris chuckled, still riding the adrenaline high. "That was the craziest thing I've ever seen, sir." Carter smirked. "You'll get used to it." But Morgan wasn't laughing. She was staring at the holo screen in front of her, where a live feed showed the Galactic Empire's capital planet shrinking in the distance. "We didn't just escape, Carter, we declared war." Carter leaned back, rubbing his temples. "Yeah, I figured." The Emperor's response. On the Empire's homeworld, the Emperor sat alone in his chamber. The golden light of the throne room flickered, reflecting off his unreadable expression. In front of him, a council of high-ranking officials argued. "The humans must be destroyed immediately." One alien barked. "They are reckless, violent, uncontrollable," another agreed. "Send the fleet. Crush them before they become a threat." But the Emperor raised a hand, silencing the room. "They did not run," he murmured. "They escaped. There is a difference." He turned toward a massive holographic map of the galaxy. His fingers hovered over Earth's sector. "No species has ever defied us so boldly," he said. "No species has ever fought back and won." He exhaled slowly. "I underestimated them." Then his gaze hardened. "We will not make that mistake again." Humanity's message. Aboard the Titan VII, Carter was deep in thought. They had humiliated the Empire, exposed their weaknesses, and proven that humans were not to be underestimated. But this wasn't over. Morgan's voice broke the silence. "Carter, you know they'll come for us." He nodded. "Yeah, and when they do, we need to be ready." Dr. Vance looked up from his console. "I've patched into an old Imperial frequency," he said. "We can send out one last message before we go dark." Carter grinned. "Perfect." He leaned forward, staring at the blinking transmission beacon. This was their chance to set the record straight, to let the entire galaxy know who humanity truly was. He hit the button. A holo message was sent across Imperial space, a signal that would be received by every major power in the galaxy. The Emperor, the warlords, the politicians, the people. And in that message, Carter's voice rang clear. "To the Galactic Empire, you wanted to test humanity. Well, now you have your answer. We are strong. We are relentless. And we do not kneel. Come for us if you want. But if you do, you better be ready." The message cut out. For a long moment, the bridge was silent. Then Morgan exhaled. "Well, no turning back now." Carter grinned. "Wouldn't have it any other way." As the Titan VII vanished into the void, the galaxy braced itself, because humanity had made its stand, and the war was just beginning.